You're listening to The Real Deal Conversations, a podcast designed to encourage, inspire, and equip you by sharing real stories and meaningful conversations that bring real life to the surface. I'm your host, Megan Deal. Let's dive in. I am with Whitney Guison today, the Nixa Chamber president, and Whitney recently wrote a booklet about conflict, and I asked her to come on because I'm terrible at conflict. And I was like, I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one that needs help in this. And so she came on and I am so excited. Whitney, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Just fun fact. I met Whitney 2 winters ago and it was at a WIN. So Working Women in Nixa. It's a phenomenal group of women. You guys should attend. It's a monthly luncheon. Anyway, I met her there. And her energy was so cool and fun. And I went, man, I want that to be my friend. And so it is finally happening where I get to connect with Whitney. And I am so excited because she is a whole vibe. And I genuinely do adore you.
That was very kind, also unexpected. Also, I love that our start of our friendship is on a podcast.
Yeah.
Talk about an energy.
Yeah. I know.
We can't just have coffee like regular people.
I know. But I feel like that, that is par for my life, I think. I think it's like in a nutshell. Like nothing can be normal for me.
Love it. I'm here for that.
I love it too. Okay, so conflict.
Yeah.
First of all, what made you even interested in conflict and helping people with conflict?
Oh, how long is this supposed to be?
An hour.
Okay, perfect. Because this answer will be the whole hour.
Okay.
Not really. It won't.
Let's do it.
So I actually started school thinking I'd be a therapist.
Okay.
I wanted to be a marriage and family therapist back before I was married with a family.
Okay.
And I got my associate's degree in psychology, and then I went to work for a facility in Utah that was an eating disorder facility where clients lived there and they got their therapy and all that stuff. And I worked there in a certain capacity and learned in that field that I could not be a therapist. I didn't have the empathy that I think therapists would need to be a good therapist, right?
Yeah.
And I was that field was hard for me, right? Like mental health was very difficult. And I was like, I don't know that I want to deal and help people deal with this. I don't have the capacities that I think one would need for that.
I love how self-aware you are.
Better or for worse, I'm just kind of a jerk. So not a good field for me.
Yeah.
So then I was kind of floundering because I didn't know what to do. I found communication studies, just the field, and realized that communication studies is, I don't know if I can say this actually, go ahead. I'm going to offend somebody out there.
It's okay.
It's kind of like psychology for without mental illness, right?
Okay, yeah.
So we're not going back and we're not trying to figure out trauma or any of that kind of thing. It's just from this point forward, how do you interact with people in an effective way?
Yeah.
That I love,
yeah.
right? Like the simplicity and the beauty of it, which is not super simplistic and it's kind of messy. But
I feel like that's something we really, really, really need right now.
Right.
Like, really bad.
Just how do you interact with other humans in an effective way?
Yes.
Truly, communication in my experience in it solved that question and answered that question for me. And so from there, I got my bachelor's degree in communication studies. I came to Missouri, got my master's degree in communication and with an emphasis in conflict resolution because I just loved the deeper I got into just how do we talk to each other.
Yeah.
I realized that the reason why we're asking that question is because we're fighting with each other. So really the question is, how do we stop fighting, right?
Yeah.
Or my question has become, how do we fight better?
Yeah.
And more effectively?
Yeah, exactly.
Because we're going to fight,
Yeah.
So, fighting is a strong word, but you know what I mean.
No, I do. Disagree, navigate life.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, you saying, everybody is taking sides right now in so many ways. And nobody knows how to, function in a healthy way. Nobody knows how to conversate. That's kind of an absolute. I shouldn't say nobody. A lot of people, we're struggling.
Yeah.
We are struggling to see each other's sides. We are struggling to conversate and just listen without losing friendships,
absolutely,
losing family members.
Yep.
And so I think this is actually going to be a little more beneficial than just me learning how to deal with my own poo-poo. So
we can start there.
Yes. So, okay. Wait, the conflict styles are avoiding, accommodating, competing, compromising, and collaborating. first, which one's yours?
Well, so I am, I think, more naturally a competer.
Okay.
But over the years, I've learned to be more of a compromiser.
Okay.
/ collaborator, depending.
Yeah.
And I actually, not to jump too far ahead, I'm sure you have questions about this little booklet, which you said it correctly, because it's not really, it took you, 5 minutes to read? It's very short.
Yeah.
But what I like about it, and something that I've found the deeper I get into conflict resolution, is when you go to school, they teach you how do you interact with other people, right? Like, I take conflict resolution. I've kind of turned it to where how do I interact with myself, which then helps me interact with other people, right? Okay. And so I say that because it's hard for me to answer that question. I avoid when I need to avoid, and I compete when I need to compete, and I compromise when I need to compromise. And I say that like I'm some sort of master of this. I'm not. Like when it comes to my husband, I don't do anything right, Yeah. Because the more intimate something is, the harder it becomes. Yeah. But when I like to think that I'm a really good boss because I can do these things, and that's a little bit more distant of a relationship, I like to think I'm a really good chamber president because I can move in and out of these things better. And so, but naturally I'm a competer. Naturally I want to be right. Yeah. Yeah. But I've learned to collaborate, and I've learned to just compromise if I have to. I've also learned to do the other things that most people would think is more negative, but there's definitely a place for them. Yeah. So.
I do, you're saying that, and I think like before you had met, the way I heard what you were saying was you're a very self-aware person. That's obvious from what you've said, but also reading a room. And so I think there is something to, just because, as we're talking about these conflict styles, I am an avoider. I am straight up an avoider. However, like Whitney, I can read a room, and even if, or a situation, and even if it makes me want to throw up, I will do what I need to do. And that doesn't mean that I will do it well.
Sure.
But I will, but I am like my go-to is to avoid unless it's in my marriage. And then I will, make sure I am right. And that's not the best thing. That's not
so
the best thing.
Interesting.
That's not the best thing. I know. Okay, there is, like, I am such an avoider that if you do see me outside of my marriage, if you do see me confronting something or saying something, you have to know that I am such a conflict avoider that something obviously, like when you see me be straightforward or direct with somebody or whatever, you have to go, oh, something really definitely pushed Megan's button. Like something pushed her button, because I will never do it for no reason. Right. Period. And there are people who will. Like they will do it just for whatever.
I'm more curious about why in your marriage you switch into competing.
I don't know. Okay, so I have gone, competing originally, I should say that. I should kind of backtrack. We've been married for 15 years. A majority of our marriage, I would say that I was like a competer. Like I'm right. And I don't know if it's like a pride thing. I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm right.
You're like, he's just wrong. It's not like competing. It's just that he's wrong. Does he listen to your podcast?
Yes, he does. So anyway, but I will say that the older I got, the longer we've been married, the more self-reflective of where can I grow, where can I adjust to make sure that like our marriage is healthy and not one-sided. I have gotten more into like, I guess compromising. I guess that would be, the better word. But there still are times where I don't let up, but I'm quicker to let up now. Whereas before it would be like days where I would like sit on it and I'd be, until he like relented.
Right.
That's not healthy.
That's interesting.
That's terrible. And so now I'm a lot quicker to be like, oh wait, I am wrong. Like I am wrong. Or I do that with my kids too. Like I have anxiety, and sometimes anxiety can turn into anger for me, and it has nothing to do with anybody but myself. Truly, it's a me problem. It's a nobody else problem. And so I'll go to my kids and I'll be like, hey, just so you know, like what you did scared me, and my reaction was anger. That wasn't on you. That was solely on me. Please do not accept that as your like any truth whatsoever. And I'll apologize. And I've gotten really good at that. But that took practice, and that took just getting older. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, the getting older is the practice, I think.
Yeah.
I know often we talk about, age and wisdom and all that stuff, but really I think people who are aged, not that we are that, but
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
other people who are aged,
Right.
it's like really what they've done. If there's an older person who was experienced, then we're like, man, that person is so self-aware.
Yeah.
That's just years of practicing
Yes.
being that way, you know,
Yes.
because there's other old people who are kind of putzes.
Yeah.
The only reason why you've gotten to the experience where things are working is because you're practicing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the element that we miss sometimes, that we don't practice interpersonal relationships. We just always do it. And honestly, we have a society that kind of pats us on the back for being us, you know?
Yes.
Like, good job, just be you, you know?
Yeah.
Just you being you, boo. And if you being you is you being just a really great human, awesome.
Yeah.
Pat yourself on the back.
Yeah.
But if you being you is competing with your husband unnecessarily,
Yeah.
then maybe you should
Yeah.
take a step and practice doing something differently,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
well done.
And adjust. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So with avoidance, let's start with that.
Oh yeah, sorry. We're gonna actually
No, I
talk
know.
about this in depth.
Okay, avoidance. I know what avoidance looks like for me. It looks like wanting to throw up. Guys, I am a conflict avoider, and I ran for school board last year. Like
How'd that go? How did you feel during that? Oh man.
I really had, but because I'm a conflict avoider, I do also think that works in my advantage because I am not quick to respond.
Yeah.
And I am able to be slower to process and come up with a more well thought out response, or take a few days and be like, honestly, I don't even want to respond. And not necessarily because of conflict avoidance, but because I'm like, even if I do, I just don't think it's beneficial. And I feel like people just need to see me for my actions and not my words anyway. So I don't think what's your take on that? Like conflict avoidance, I don't think it's bad all the time.
I wish more people did it.
Yeah.
To be quite frank.
Okay.
I think that avoidant, it always has this really bad rap. They talk about how you don't want to, and what we mean to say is we don't want to avoid to the point where something gets poisoned, right?
Okay.
But we don't ever say that. Avoiding is bad, but you shouldn't avoid it. Well, so I'm a huge proponent of going to bed angry, right? Like avoid, because the amount of times that I've been angry at my husband and woken up the next morning and not even remembered why, I can't even count. Like it's so many times.
Yeah.
And so I wish more people would avoid. I think it's kind of the undervalued conflict style here, because if we could avoid appropriately, we could avoid a lot of unnecessary conflict, to be quite frank.
Actually, that's a really good perspective.
Yeah.
I've never thought of that.
The problem is we avoid inappropriately.
Yeah.
So we avoid to the point where things start to get poisoned because we're not addressing things that need to be addressed. And so I think everyone could use a little bit of avoidant conflict style in their lives.
Yeah.
I think it would be wise if we could all take a breath and not jump in, fist flailing, but rather just ask yourselves the relevant questions to figure out, is this worth approaching? And then once you decide if it's worth it, leave the avoidant phase or stage and get out there and figure out how you're going to do it.
Yeah. Can I be really honest with you?
Yeah.
What I've done in conflict before, that I've had to say something. I told ChatGPT what I wanted to say. And I said, can you write this in a way that is going to be productive? And then I sent it.
I'm actually super impressed with ChatGPT. I got nothing against if it's an email. If it's like a weird thing that you like, don't call somebody and read ChatGPT's thing. But if it's an email, heck yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Or there's been some texts that have come to me and they were like a string of texts. And I was like, wow, I can't even read that because that's overwhelming. That's a lot. Yeah. And I stuck it in ChatGPT and I said, can you evaluate this person's mental state? Swear. And it did. Paragraph by paragraph.
I'm sorry. I'm literally thinking about people in my life right now that I could have ChatGPT therapize and see if I can get a better understanding of what's going on there.
And I know there are people listening right now that are like, I can't believe, because there's so many people against AI and they're like, I can't believe
it's coming.
She said that. And
learn how to deal with it.
I know, but I'm like, guys, seriously, it helps me because when it breaks it down, I'm like, oh, so then this is how it helps me respond. It helps me learn how to respond. Yeah. And honestly, it also helps me know where to put a comma. So
not everyone has a therapist in their back pocket that they can be like, this feels crazy, but is it? You know?
I know.
And if that's ChatGPT for you, that's great.
Hey, it is what it is.
Back pocket therapist.
There we go. So, okay. Avoiding. So give us the breakdown of avoiding. What does it look like? How can we work through conflict avoidance to be healthier? So when you want to throw up, when you're like, I'm going to avoid this, but to the point where it's going to become unhealthy, and then I explode, and then the relationship is just going to be done.
Right.
What can we do to be proactive?
So I think you have to practice self-awareness, like what we've been talking about already. I think that when you avoid, you need to be able to go approach a situation and remove your emotional reactions to it. And that is probably the hardest part, because everyone knows if you've sat through any kind of conflict resolution, anything, you know that when you're in conflict, you're in fight or flight.
Yeah.
You think you're about to die, right? Yeah. Which is insane, because if my husband walks in and doesn't greet me the way I think he should, I think a bear is coming at me. Like why does my body do that? I don't know, but it does, So I think that
I'm glad you just said that.
I mean, but that's how it is,
yes,
right?
No, but really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some men are probably going to listen to this and be like, what? And if they are married, I highly recommend you greet your wife well, because she thinks a bear is in the kitchen if you're a little curt.
Or if he hugs me lightly, I go, I am not your friend.
Yeah, what's wrong?
Exactly
what's
that.
going on?
Exactly that. That's so funny. Okay, go on.
Anyway, but so if anyone knows anything about conflict, it's that we think we are in fight or flight. Our system is. So we stop thinking logically, right? Cuts it off, all of our emotions, all of our adrenaline rushes to protect ourselves, which is so silly when you think about these situations where that happens. Just like, wow, that was an overreaction. And it is. It's entirely an overreaction. And so avoiding long enough to where you can let your logical side start to come back and think, I think is the key. And that might be different for different people. So I can't tell you how long it takes your logical side to come back and your emotions to calm down. Mine, depending on who I'm talking to, can happen very quickly. With my husband, it actually happens very fast, because we have a great communication relationship we've built over the last 10 years. In the beginning of our relationship, though, it took a long time for me to calm down and be able to talk logically. So I think that is one of the key things is, am I still reacting emotionally? Or can I now start to consider and think about, what am I feeling? Can I define it? What is happening? And can I describe what's happening without using emotional language? Like, I'm angry is not a definition of the situation, right? Yeah. Or you made me mad is not a definition of the situation. If I can define this without using my emotional language, then I'm probably getting to a better place where I can think logically. Yeah. Then the next step is it worth addressing? Is it worth engaging with this other person or this entity or this group or this company or whatever it is? Is it worth engaging it? Does it have that much value to me?
But how does somebody define if it's worth it? You know what I mean?
That's a really hard question.
I know. And I had to, personally, I really, again, just over the years had to learn, but it's also through experience of, previously that probably wasn't worth it. Put it in the box of let's let that one fizzle. Let's let that one fade. And so it's kind of I feel, experience of 2020, hindsight 2020. Yeah. But I do think it can be hard sometimes still, because there are some things that I am passionate about. My husband and I, politically, like occasionally we don't agree. Sometimes we do agree. Sometimes we don't agree. Sometimes I want to help him understand, really understand, but he also really does for me. And so it's like, not worth it. It's not worth it. But at the moment, you're passionate. So it's like, how do you gauge what's worth it and what's not?
Well, here's the thing. I'll say this. If you were to go through the little setup I just told you, which is take the time to get past the emotional state, I think you would know what's worth it and what's not. To be quite frank, everything's worth it when we're in fight or flight. Yeah. Or not. Everything is or isn't, know, and then 2 days later, you're still a little bugged. Yeah. And you're like, oh, I'm still a little bugged. Maybe it is worth it, right? Like, there's conversations I've had with my husband that I'm like, this is not important to you. I know it's not, but it's been a week and it's still bugging me. Yeah. But the difference is, because it's been a week, I can go to him and say, here's what is bugging me. And it's not because I'm emotionally engaged in this anymore. It's because I've thought it through thoroughly. Here's your information. Yeah. How do we fix this? That is a whole different conversation than the week before, when I'm mad and angry and I don't know what words I'm allowed to use on this podcast. So I'm being really careful. Yeah. The week before, when all the emotions are raging, his emotions are raging, your emotions are raging, it's not worth it. Nothing is ever worth it then, So if you can get through the emotional state, I think most people can understand, was it worth it or not? The other thing, talking about practice.
Yeah.
You said hindsight's 20/20. I would say practice makes perfect. Because whenever we say that kind of stuff, hindsight's 20/20, you practice something.
Yeah.
It worked or it didn't.
Yeah.
It was worth it or it wasn't. And you know it on the other side, right? So when you get to the other side of it, you're like, oh, that wasn't worth it. The next time that comes up, you'll say, I already dealt with this once, and this is how it went. Is it worth it? Yeah. And you will know the answer to that question, because that's what's so hard is people ask that kind of question all the time.
Yeah.
When do I and when do I not? Only you can answer that question. That's what kind of sucks about the soft sciences.
Yeah.
We don't have hard answers.
Yeah.
But for you and your situation and every single relationship you find yourself in, if I were to go engage those same exact people in your life, my relationship with them is different. It's not worth it, or it is differently, Yeah. My history is different than yours. My history with individuals is different than yours. My whole life history is different than yours. So is it worth it for me? Maybe. Is it worth it for you? Maybe. That's just, I know that kind of is feels like a cop-out, but it's just.
No, it does.
If you can get through it and practice,
yep.
And on the when you're on the other side and you say that wasn't worth it, the next time you'll have the answer to that question.
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
So in marriage, I'm going to bring out your former marriage and family counseling info.
Well, that was
I'm gonna.
That wasn't a lot, but yeah.
Well, we're gonna dive into it just briefly.
Okay.
You have an avoider in the marriage. What would you say to them? What would be like a takeaway for them to start communicating? Like, what would be an encouraging word you can give them, or a perspective you can give them to help them not be an avoider, so that they can move forward?
So I think this answer is twofold. It's a great question. If I'm talking to the avoider, I would say certain things. If I'm talking to someone who wants to go talk to the avoider, that's a different conversation.
Okay.
So if an avoider came to me and said, I'm an avoider and I'm married and I think it's getting in the way of things, what do I do? That person will be able to figure out their conflict style so fast because they see that what they're currently doing isn't working. You can have that conversation of why isn't it working? And the answer is probably because my spouse is getting frustrated at my lack of engagement. Probably, right? If I'm just taking a stab at it because I'm married too and I know how that goes,
Yes.
So probably their spouse is getting frustrated because things aren't getting figured out because of the avoidance. And I think I would go exactly back to what I've already told you, which is let's define what's going on in a non-emotional way. Let's get you out there and get you to engage in a conflict with your spouse. It's not going to be as bad as you think it's going to be. And the more you do that, so you're talking to somebody whose husband was wildly avoidant when we got married. I mean, we fought about how avoidant he was, that's what we did. And we've been married 10 years now. And the longer we go, the better our conflict gets because he is more and more comfortable. And we're a decade into this, and he still will avoid things because that's his default. That's what he learned how to do, But the longer we go, the better our interactions get, the easier it becomes for him. And so what I would tell any avoiders, if you are in a relationship with a good person, because that is key, if you are in a relationship with a good person and you have figured out yourself, you approach them, it's going to go better than you think. And it will, because if it's a good person they're in a relationship with. And then you just do that over and over and over again, and it gets easier and easier and easier because you start to trust that exchange is going to be beneficial and you're going to grow from it as a couple. That's what I would tell them.
Daniel used to be the avoider too. But like you, I mean, as marriage goes on, like our communication has gotten just dramatically different, but that's through 15 years. Like if I told you about the first 2 years of our marriage, you'd be like, oh my gosh, you're both crazy. You know what I mean?
I think we would be crazy with you.
I know. Yeah. Let me tell you about Daniel and I. Daniel and I met, and within 2 months we were pregnant. Like we were boom, boom. I guess in multiple ways we were boom, boom. But I guess. Anyway.
That was good.
Yes. Okay. Not intended. There you go.
Yeah.
And so we had to learn how to get to know each other we had to learn about each other, also learn to be parents together. Like we had to learn everything at one time.
Yep.
And so our conflict, like we had a hard time, but that is also why I'm so proud of us and why I am so proud of our 15-year marriage and that I can truly say he is my absolute best friend, but that's my ride or die. But we also fought for each other.
Absolutely.
And not just with each other. We fought for each other. And so now it is like a night and day difference. But again, like I mentioned earlier, we're still human. And sometimes we do want to go back to the default. But because we're older now and it's a lot easier to go, oh, wait a minute, I have to put myself in check. And so it's like a 30-minute to an hour putting myself in check instead of a 7-day.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So I would encourage anybody to just, if you're struggling with different conflict styles in your marriage, time and practice and practice and practice. And don't get upset with yourself if it's not happening as quickly because like what Whitney and I are saying, it wasn't great for, I don't know if there's any marriage that starts out wonderful. I need to know. I need to know.
What did you do? How did you do it?
Like for real, right? You guys need to write the book. Yeah. I won't read it, but you guys need to write the book.
Not for people like us, but there's people out there, I'm sure.
So, okay. With avoiding, so accommodating. What is the accommodating conflict style? What does that look like?
Accommodating is almost harder for me than avoiding because it feels like you're on the same page with that. So I say this as not a non-accommodator. I don't accommodate. That's never my default, unless I'm really tired, Yeah. But then there's no conflict. I just don't care.
Yeah.
But accommodators are hard to pin it down because they will make you feel like your idea is their idea. Like, great. Okay. Whatever you say, you're the smartest person in the room. Yay.
Okay.
But what makes it a conflict style is when they don't agree with what they're saying. They want to do something different. They think we should go a different way, but they don't know how to say that to you. So they'll just be like, yeah, that's a great idea that you have. So they're really hard to spot because it feels like you guys are collaborating.
Yeah.
But really, one of you is unhappy with the situation. Very, very difficult to figure out.
Okay. Yeah. So then how does that usually end up? Like, what's the outcome to that?
Honestly, it usually ends up in some sort of blow up. If it's in a intimate relationship, or not. I mean, it depends. Is this thing grow? Is it building, or are they getting smaller and smaller and smaller in the relationship? Right.
Yeah.
I have a big personality. It feels like you have a very big personality. Yes. It would be easy for my husband to get lost in me, right? Except for he also has a very big personality, so that's just nice for me that. He won't ever get lost in me. Yeah. But if he was truly an accommodator, it would be easy to get lost in a computer, right? Yeah. Because they can get smaller and smaller and smaller till they are just miserable. Yeah. And you may not even notice. In the workplace, you lose them. They go somewhere else.
Yep. Okay. Also, in the workplace, are those the ones who typically agree, but then behind the scenes, they're like collaborating in a negative way? Like,
oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Like, yeah, they could.
Because they're accommodating, but truly they're
kind of passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. They could be those.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what came to mind for me.
I have one of my staff in the past, not at the chamber now, was a hard accommodator. It took me a minute to figure it out. And I figured it out because you have to create these interpersonal relationships with your people, right? You can't just be like, I'm cool and you're cool and high five in the hall. Like, you have to get to know your staff, you know? And I got to know that they were an accommodator. So we had to address that outside of conflicts, right? So you have to develop a whole system where that person feels comfortable with you. And you have to teach them how to interact with you before they disagree with you.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you'll never get their true opinion of anything. I've even assigned people before, hey, I need you to disagree with me, not for your benefit, for mine. I need to see the other side of things so they get comfortable. Yeah. It's an assignment I gave them. They get comfortable disagreeing and comfortable in conflict with me because they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But if I make them for my own benefit,
right.
If I make them do it, then they get more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But that, I think accommodating is one of the harder ones to deal with.
I really like that you do that though, because I also think that builds a safety.
Yeah, it does.
And a trust. I like that.
And that works really well in the workplace. It doesn't work the best in like a marriage. I need you to do, I'm going to assign this to you. I
know. But I love that though, because I do think, I think there is some trust built in conflict. Although
Absolutely.
I'm an avoider, I definitely do think there's trust built in that because I don't know. I don't even have the words for it. I'm just going to leave it at I think there's trust built there. So I love that you do that.
I will say I think that trust is built through conflict.
Yeah.
I don't think trust is built through the lack of conflict.
Yeah.
I think trust is built through conflict that's resolved.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's good perspective. Okay. Competing. We've already kind of talked about competing, but let's dive into it a little further. So competing, what does that look like in the workplace? We've already talked about what that looks like in marriage. I feel like, what does that look like in the workplace? And how do we navigate that?
So competing in the workplace is somebody who's I like to think in extremes because it helps you paint a picture, but this is a big extreme. Competing in the workplace would be like, imagine a narcissist in the workplace. That's your computer, right? And everyone's like, oh my gosh, that person who's always right, who always has to talk, who never can take feedback. That's the worst version of a computer. You have varying degrees below that, obviously, because most likely you're not working with a narcissist, listeners out there. Like, don't assume the worst of that person, you know? So computers are the ones who take all the credit for things. They're really hard to work with because no matter what you do, it wasn't enough or it wasn't right. What they suggested is the way it should go. Okay. Because I'm a natural computer, it's easier for me to spot those. I mean, we all spot it, but it's easier for me to understand where that's coming from because I feel like I'm right a lot. You know, is it bad if I'm right when you're wrong? What's the harm in being right? You know,
I wonder if I'm a computer. Because I'm resonating with what you're saying.
If you're a computer in your marriage, you're probably a computer outside of that as well.
I guess I always thought I was avoidant, but I guess I didn't truly understand the conflict styles to know that maybe I am a mesh.
I mean, you're more than one for sure.
Yeah.
No one person is just one thing. Unless you are a true narcissist, then you're just one thing. But
well, I wonder if, okay, so let me give some context to it. So nobody's just writing a narrative. Okay, so I am, like, I said this yesterday at Win. Like, nobody will have higher expectations of me than I have of myself. Nobody can, like, I am so wired to go 1,000 miles an hour and do my best in every single thing I can do. It causes me to burn out. I do get burnout. But I do struggle because of that. I expect everybody else to be able to do the same. And Susan told me, she's the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters, and she said, you have to stop expecting everybody to work at the pace you do or you will kill them. Yeah. Like, you have to stop. And my response was, but if I can do it, why can't they?
Yeah.
Like, if I can have all of this on my plate and be mom and be wife, but I am going to say this. I learned through a lot of but I ended up burnt out. I ended up going home and instead of engaging with my family, going to my room and doom scrolling because I was so tired. And so I used to think I have the ability to do it all. And that wasn't the case.
Right.
And I got a very big piece of humble pie. These people, I feel that at the time I was like, why can't they do this, and this, or because they were self-aware and knew their boundaries. Whereas I had to learn, just because I'm able to do it doesn't mean that I don't need to put some boundaries in place.
Or
do you know what I'm
perhaps
saying?
just because you're willing to push yourself to the breaking point,
yeah,
doesn't mean everyone else should do the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I really had to learn that. And so is that competing? Is that competing?
You're describing a whole personality trait, you
Okay.
know. But if you were to boil that down into when were you last in conflict with somebody in work?
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't talk about it here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you more comfortable avoiding, or are you avoiding for a reason?
Yeah.
You know, because you describe yourself as an avoidant person out in the world, but competing at home, which is shocking to me, right?
Yeah.
Not that can't be true. It's just that's a very odd combination.
So then what would I? Why is that? Why is that odd? Why does that?
Because computers don't tend to default to avoidant states or vice versa.
Okay, so I usually default to an avoidant state because I know that I cannot be nice. And so I default, and it makes me want to throw up because I don't.
It's not because you're scared of a conflict. It's because you're right and you don't know how to.
It's because I know my mouth.
Address the situation appropriately.
And I don't
Which
know.
is a very different thing.
Yeah. Maybe I'm not avoidant
So most avoiders, they're avoiding because they can't handle they don't care who's right or wrong. They don't want the conflict. Like they don't want to engage this. This is so uncomfortable. I can't do this. A computer is right. And they are right. And if you're right, they're also right. Whether or not they're going to engage you is different.
Yeah.
Right?
So then maybe I am just a straight up
Sounds
computer.
like you're a computer. Sounds like you're a me, honestly.
Yeah.
You sound like me.
Because I know my mouth and I know I know it. And
Which is great, by the way. A lot of computers don't. And they're just out there making waves, you know?
And that's why I avoid. Because and honestly, why I put into ChatGPT, how can I say this nicer and to where it's going to be effective? Because I only know how to do it in a very direct way. I don't know how to I just don't. But because I know how direct I can be in my vocal tones and I don't like to upset people. I don't like to hurt people's feelings.
Sure.
I don't.
You're a nice person. So while you are a computer, you're also nice. So
So I guess I've learned something new. I always thought I was avoidant. I am a computer.
You might default to the competing state, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
A lot of us do, especially if we go 1,000 miles a minute, which I'm the same. Everything you describe in yourself, I see in myself. I can go. I can make decisions lickety split when people are still debating things, right? And I'm like, why are we waiting? I don't understand. Like the decision's made, so I'm already out the door. Right. That can be very hard for computers to settle down and collaborate, but you can, and you sounds like you do. Yeah. But you think you're avoiding when you're really just managing yourself, which is great.
No, I do. I will look at if I have to say something, even if it's not like conflict. I a lot of my default is to go, how can this go 10 different ways? And I will evaluate every way that it could go, and if it has more negative outcomes, then I will just avoid. Like I'll just be like, I'm not. It's not worth it to me. And so, I don't know. I always wonder sometimes when I talk about myself in this way, like, is there a therapist listening? If so, please don't evaluate me.
Please can you come on next month?
Please don't analyze me. Okay.
That's funny.
So, compromising. What does compromising look like? Actually, I originally was going to just solely talk about business, but I want to talk about marriage too, because I think it's going to be very beneficial for people. So what does compromising look like in the workplace, and what does it look like in marriage?
I mean, it's exactly what we think it looks like. Compromising is an easy one. The way you would describe it kind of in the conflict resolution world is it's a win-lose situation. So everyone wins a little, everyone loses a little. It's probably one of the easier ones to do because you can give a little, get a little. Everyone wins, everyone's happy, but everyone also has to lose a little something. So it's pretty simplistic, and it looks the same way in marriage as it would in the workplace. I mean, obviously different scenarios, but that one is probably the most obvious because everyone talks about compromising, right?
Yeah.
Like compromise everything, everywhere, all the time, and you're the good person. So,
is there like an unhealthy compromise?
I mean, probably.
Yeah.
There's an unhealthy everything.
Yeah.
You can get to that version of unhealthy anywhere you go.
But like compromising, is there people that compromise too much just because they're a doormat?
I mean, if that were the case, I would probably say they're accommodating.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because they're not getting anything.
Okay.
The whole purpose of compromising is that you are happy with what you've gotten, even though you had to give a little. Okay. And I am happy with what I got, even though I had to give a little. That's why it's such an agreeable state in conflict is, yes, we still had to go to my in-laws' house, but we didn't have to stay the whole weekend. You know, so I lost a little, gained a little. Yeah. My husband lost a little, gained a little. I love my in-laws. Yeah. You know, I don't know if they're listening or not, but so that's the thing about if somebody is not getting anything, they're accommodating. They're not compromising.
Okay. Yeah. So collaborating.
One of the hardest ones and most frustrating ones.
I was just about to say, is this hard? I was just about to say that because where I feel like my ideas are the correct ones, I would be like, I work better by myself. I do. I work so for everybody that knows, I'm not on staff at Big Bro anymore. I talk about it all the time, but Big Bro, I'm not on staff there anymore. I'm actually a board member for it now. But when I was on staff, I just had a position. I was on an island on my own to myself, and I ran it, and I loved it. So collaborating, I'm actually very interested to know what you have to say about this. I will preface it with, though, I have the ability to collaborate,
of course,
but I really have to like be mindful.
So here's what I have to say about collaborating. It's not always the best.
Yeah.
We think of it as the best, like everybody wins everything they want. Most scenarios require that not happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And also collaborating, the other thing about collaborating is it takes so much time, skill, and effort. Yes. And the skill part, actually, we haven't even touched really on any skills in this conversation yet, but there's a skill element to this that most of us are missing, which pushes us around when it comes to conflict. And if you're going to truly collaborate well with someone, you have to be skilled in your communication. You have to be very self-aware. You have to have built a good system with the other person, system in a relationship. They have to trust you. You have to trust them, especially if we're talking about interpersonal. At work, it can be a little different because at work, you can guide a team to a shared goal and vision, and then it becomes collaborative because everyone recognizes and agrees with, here's our shared vision, so now we're all going to work towards that. If you're the supervisor of a team, that's your best thing, is get everyone to share your vision, now we're all collaborating.
Yes.
But getting them to share that vision means you have to be a really good communicator. They have to trust you. That you have to get their buy-in. You know, that requires skill and time. So collaboration, the challenges with it is not every scenario demands it. Some scenarios demand competing. Someone's going to be right and someone's going to be wrong. Decisions have to be made. Some scenarios demand compromising because not everyone's going to ever get everything that they ever wanted.
Yeah.
So collaboration, while it sounds like the best one, that's only the best one in the scenarios in which it makes sense to have that happen.
Yeah.
My husband tries to collaborate when we decide on where to go for dinner. It drives me crazy. And I'll be like, let's go to dinner. I want to go to Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're allowed to shout out names.
Yeah.
Endorsement.
Do it.
Texas Roadhouse. And he's like, great, I love Texas Roadhouse. What about FD's? Like, do you want to go to FD's? Well, not necessarily. I'm just giving us options. What about Freddy's? What about, and what about 14 Mil? What about this? What about, and so I'm like, do you want to go to any of those places? Well, I just want us to cover all our bases. I don't want to do that. We just need to make a decision and go.
Oh my gosh, that's so Daniel. Like, we'll be driving down the road. I'm like you. Like, I make the decision. The decision's made. Be done. Like, I don't even done. Daniel, like that. Okay, but what about Brahms? Like, we'll stop and get
Did you think about that one?
Yeah. And then we'll pass Brahms. And I'm like, well, what did you? He's like, well, also, what about this? And I'm like, Daniel, just choose a place. Like, at this point, you were just naming them all. And we have already made the decision of where to go. And I just, or like it's a thing.
It's such a simplistic example that I use all the time because it's so clear and easy to kind of grasp that is the most inappropriate time to try and collaborate.
Yeah.
But first of all, if you like Texas Roadhouse and I like it, why are we discussing this further?
I know.
And then my competing comes out. Like we're just going. Like, you're wrong. Whatever you're doing is wrong, and I'm right.
I know.
But collaboration can be very good. Like when you're bringing a whole team to a vision, you got to work towards the collaboration.
Yeah.
I made a mistake at the chamber early days. I'm gonna tell the whole world. The mistake I made was I revamped. We have an ambassador program that's really strong. Great group of people that go out and do a lot of volunteering for the chamber. And I wanted to be able to reward them better. And the only way to reward someone is to track what they've done and then give them a reward for that, right? So I said, hey, we're going to do this cool system. There's like points for this and points for that, and you're going to earn all this stuff. And I sent out this email that I didn't have ChatGPT look at. It was very intense, right? Like, here's all this system that I put into place because it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I think I had like 2 or 3 lunches that week with different ambassadors saying how much they hated this thing. This is not going to work. Why am I like, I'm kicking ambassadors out. This is happening. I mean, it became like kind of a thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I was thinking this would be so great. So I finally called all my ambassadors in a room. We all sat down in a room and we talked for like an hour about what do we do? This is what I want to do. Here's my vision for what I want to have happen. What do you want? So this huge collaborative process.
Yeah.
Do you know where we landed? With a point system, the same thing I had offered to them in an email. But the difference was they were a part of the conversation, right?
Yeah.
So they saw the vision. They saw what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
They came up with the same answers that I had already gone through my own process for, right? But I didn't include the team.
Yeah.
And that at the end of it, I just laughed because I'm like, I know better. Like, I know how to do this. I know how to collaborate with everyone and get everyone on the same shared vision and mission and vision.
Yeah.
And I know how to go through this process. I was just trying to streamline it and go faster than my team.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work in a workspace.
Yeah.
It also doesn't work well in a marriage.
I was just about to say, it doesn't work well in a marriage. I am the one who's like efficiency. And Daniel's like the most laid back, chill. I don't even know if unless he's getting mad at a ref, I don't even know if like anybody like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's just, and I'm like efficient in conversation too. Daniel likes to tell me about the color of the sky when he's telling me about the food he made. Like not actual wording.
Right.
But
I understand. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I am over here going, I need you to get to the point. One, my brain can only handle so much detail.
I stopped listening a while ago.
Yes. Like my eyes are glazed over. People have actually been known to see my eyes glazed over. And it's not because I'm being rude. It's because I genuinely, my brain stops at a certain point of detail if we don't take just like a quick breath. And I have to go, Daniel, I need you to get to the point or I'm checking out. Yeah. And he's like, well, I just don't even want to say it anymore. And I'm like,
well, that must kill you.
I'm like,
well, now you have to say it.
I know. And I'm like, Daniel, it's not about, I literally can't process because it is about efficiency in so many ways. And so you have to know that the restaurant thing that we go through all the time, or like when we have 3 kids in the back.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, okay, where do you guys want to go? Now, Whitney, I know. When you ask 3 kids, there's going to be 3 different responses, and then everybody's going to argue. And so I always chime in and go, do not ask them, pick the place and go to it. They will get whatever they eat.
Absolutely, 100%. How old are your kids?
15, 12, and 8.
Well, they're probably past the point where they throw a fit if they don't get what they want.
Correct.
That's great, because mine's 9, 7, and 3.
Okay.
So if we ask the question and we don't go to one of those places, that kid has broken down for the night. It's done. Their life is ended. So I'm with you. Don't ask.
Oh, yes.
We make the decision and we go.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or we surprise them with something.
But Daniel's accommodating? Is he accommodating?
Is he? He might just be I don't want to make a decision.
I don't know. I literally thought I knew everything about my personal self, and I'm reevaluating everything after this conversation. So I'm going to go back and listen to this episode and go, okay, wait, where was I wrong about what I thought and all the other things? Because I'm learning so much.
I'm glad that you're learning. I am not the end-all be-all knowledge of conflict resolution. It is my passion. I love it. I have dabbled in conflict coaching over the last 15 years, here and there. It started off kind of accidental because friends of mine knew what I was doing and they were like, hey, can I ask you about this? I'm like, I would love to discuss that with you, you know? And it kind of turned in, anyway, it's evolved since then. I've pushed it off to the side now. I've just been busy. Life is crazy and I'm not conflict coaching anybody. And if you do it well, you don't end up with anyone to coach because they've figured it out. They have the skill set. They know how to go through things themselves, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a cool world that has so many layers and facets that this is a very simplistic conversation, but hopefully helpful to somebody, you know?
And but the skill set that you were talking about, what is the skill set that you were talking? Like, is that?
There's libraries full of books that tell you what the skill set is. I mean, I could give you 10, 15, 20 books that talk about it's how you communicate better, right?
So it's like tools. It's like practical tools.
It's practical tool and how. I mean, there's perspective taking. There's reframing. There's asking open-ended questions. There's I statements. There's.
You know what this sounds like? It sounds like we need to have a second episode.
It sounds like we need to have a second episode.
I think we need to have a second episode solely on skill set. Not kidding.
Ooh,
Let's schedule it.
I'm down.
Let's do it.
Because that's the hardest part.
Yeah. And because I've already learned I don't even think I've completely learned so much. Like, I think I need to reevaluate. I think I need to self-reflect, honestly, is what I think. And and so I hope that, listeners, as you guys have heard all this, maybe you're where I'm at and you thought you knew, but now that you have more words put to it and examples put to it, you're maybe in the boat that I'm in and you're going, I need to reevaluate some things. Maybe I didn't know this area of myself as well as I thought, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think we're always growing and I think we should be open to it. And I also want to say, ask you, can we normalize this for people so that any conflict style they have, they don't feel like they're in the wrong conflict style?
Absolutely.
Because I think sometimes it's really easy to be like, harder on ourselves. Like I avoidant. I always thought, man, I'm whatever. And so can we just normalize that?
Absolutely. But first we have to know, we don't have to know what we are.
Yeah.
I think we just need to normalize that conflict is okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to be in conflict. We can't get away from it. Even avoidant people are experiencing conflict, And I think the harder thing, what I would love to normalize when it comes to conflict is self-reflection, because we don't, that's the area I think that we really miss. Even if we have a skill set discussion, you will hear, if I'm talking about skill set, it's about my skills with talking to myself. It's, in my opinion, conflict is never about controlling another person. Conflict resolution isn't about getting another person to where you're at. It's about learning yourself and mastering yourself. And once that's mastered, then you can go outward and you can help the people around you, you know? But it's all about mastering yourself. And that's not a conversation that's had very often in conflict resolution.
I really like that you just said it's not about getting them basically to come to your side, because I think in marriage, a long time, I believed that if we're not on the same page, then there's something wrong.
Right.
That's
what should be normalized.
Yeah.
Is that we can be somewhere else.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like not have the same opinion on something major. But I always thought, well, if we're not on the same page, then who, I don't know. It's almost like it was like a definition of us.
Right.
And that was such.
Are we really one if he's over there and I'm over here?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I think, I love that you just said that. And I think that is actually a very freeing statement to hear. And that, so the like if somebody had an argument yesterday because they're not in agreement, and it's a very freeing thing to hear, but we don't have to be.
Right.
And it's okay. But I also think that is also still a conversation of how do you be okay with not being in agreement?
Yes.
Because that's hard. Okay, so now we know like we don't have to be in agreement, but how do we be okay with that? And if it's something that's very drastically different that you're both passionate about that you don't agree on, like how do you respect each other's opinion even though you don't agree?
Absolutely.
And be whole. Yeah, so I think that's something
hard
we need
questions.
To hit on.
Hard questions, but also very important questions. And I think that the way that I approach all of conflict resolution and conflict, the skills that we're talking about, is getting your own mind aligned with itself.
Yeah.
Because often when we engage too quickly and we engage for the purpose of bringing us together, when really, I could go off now. We're way outside this book, but there's a concept that I call goal-oriented communication, but your goal has to be the right goal, and the goal should never, ever, ever be anything that you can't control, right? Which means nothing that has to do with that other human is your goal. Your goal is all about what you can control.
Yeah.
So if you are going to engage, right, if you've gone through this process, you're like, I need to talk to my husband about this because it's just not going away. Your goal should never be to change his actions. The goal is I need him to understand whatever it is I need him to understand. And then we go from there. Or the goal is I need us to come up with a plan together.
Yeah.
Or I need, like, it's not he needs to stop doing or he needs to start doing. Right? Those are not, you can't control that. So then you're miserable because you're never not fighting.
Yeah.
And that's such a big issue with conflict resolution is we have misdefined the conflict. So it's a never-ending cycle of fighting over the wrong thing. And we never get anywhere.
That's fascinating.
Anyway, I could go on and on and on and on.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to have a second episode for sure.
Love it.
That is so interesting. Like there's a lot that I'm like kind of like in my head right now, like reflecting on and going, oh yeah. And I'm going to say this too. We'll ask this. So to end us out.
Yeah.
What is one thing you would encourage people with, and one tool that they can take away today, like just to implement? And it doesn't even have to be specific to any conflict, but just something that they can take away for business or work, a perspective, maybe.
Absolutely.
Something.
So the big takeaway, I would say, I feel like I just kind of threw it all out there.
Yeah.
My big takeaway when it comes to conflict, there's a couple of questions I tend to ask myself when I'm in conflict. I'll just maybe that's the takeaway.
Yeah.
One is, what am I feeling right now? And why am I feeling it? And is there anything else that is influencing these feelings that I hadn't thought of?
I love that.
And those three questions get me very far in my conflicts because, again, I'm all about self-reflection, internalizing all these issues that we're dealing with, the conflicts that we find ourselves in. I can't control you. Right? If you smack me across the face right now, I can't control that. I mean, I could take you, I think, but I probably couldn't. You look a little scrappy.
I do see that you work out.
Yeah,
and
I do.
I do not.
Well, there you go. I could bench press you. Anyway, but those 3 questions get you very, very far. And it feels, here's the thing. That's not what you would expect someone to say when they're talking about conflict resolution. You would expect someone to talk about asking open-ended questions and using I statements and perspective taking and reframing the situation. All of those are great things. They don't do squat, diddly squat if you don't know what you're fighting about. You know, like what are you reframing if you don't know what the frame is framed on? You know, what perspective are you trying to glean if you don't even know your own perspective? Like there's just, those are all, to me, we tend to start there, but we need to start a step back and figure out well and accurately and honestly define what is going on in myself. Yeah. Once that's done, honestly, and this is, a very scientific thing I'm about to tell you, 80% of your conflicts will go away, I think. They'll be resolved before you get there. I made that up. I don't know. 50, 75?
I don't know.
A lot.
I love it, though. And I like that you said, because, is it reflecting on it? There is so much that I have been upset about that wasn't genuinely, when I really looked at the root of it, it was a learned thing. And it was learned from life experience. It was a jaded view. It was a color, the lens was on that shouldn't be on.
Yep.
And then when I took it off, and that's why I'm really, the older I've gotten.
Yeah.
This is not something that I was good at before.
The more you've practiced this.
Yes. I am big on looking at the root of something.
Absolutely.
Was the root of that a learned thought that I need to unlearn? Was it based on an experience I had with somebody else that I am now taking into here and putting onto this person? And so I'm really big on looking at the root of things. Not always good at being quick at it. Sometimes I am good at being quick at it. Sometimes I'm not. I am so very human. It's so come and go. It's, I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to normalize for people,
we're all messing up in this.
Yeah, give yourself grace.
We're all messing up in this.
Give yourself grace.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
you're practicing. We're practicing being good humans.
Yeah.
And the more we practice it, the better we'll get.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'll be practicing till the day I die.
Absolutely.
Because I am I'm human. So anyway, Whitney, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
I look forward to having you on again to talk about the skills.
That would be great.